Hello, my name is Susan Morgan. I'm a textile artist and a member of the Artistry on Main Co-op Gallery in Buchanan, West Virginia. Today I'm going to show you how I create one of my signature hand-dyed fabrics shown here. These are the tools and chemicals I will be using. I have a padded dye table made from plywood covered with carpet padding and canvas and topped with a drop cloth. I will use T-pins, twine, a foam roller, a cookie sheet, and a yardstick. I use MX dyes, also called Procyon dyes, a seaweed-based thickener, sodium alginate, a dye fixer, sodium carbonate, and a resist, corn dextrin. I start with my fabric pinned out on the dye table. It is stretched pretty tightly. I then place large T-pins around the circumference of the fabric. They are 1 inch apart. They're pushed in at an angle, about 3/4 of the way down to the head of the pin. You'll be wrapping your twine around them, so want to make sure they're sturdy in the dye table. Now to stretch the twine. I'll start off by just making a slip knot. So I have a loop to start with. Start up here at the top left. And you're going to wrap your twine around your T-pins. It should be snug, going around 2 at a time. And I'm doing the length first. I'm doing the length first because it'll make it a little more stable when I roll on my dye. The twine is going to act like a resist. Wherever the twine is, no dye will get, because we're going to roll the dye over with a roller, and the twine will prevent the dye from reaching the fabric in those areas. Now that I've reached the end, my fabric is covered, I'm going to double back. I want a little thicker of a line pattern on my fabric, so I'm doubling it. I'm going to go all the way back to where I began. Now I'm back to the beginning on the lengthwise. My string just came apart. And I'm going to go crosswise now. I'm going to go widthwise. So just as before, go around every 2 pins. And then I'm going to double back to the beginning. And then I'll be all done with the string. This uses a lot of twine, as you can see, and unfortunately it is not reusable that I know of. So this is a one-time deal, and we're just going to discard the twine when we're done. Almost done. So the twine is doubled lengthwise and widthwise. Now I just give it a little wrap and pin it down to hold it tight. All right, you might want to adjust these a little bit, make them go together, and cut it off. Now I'll prepare my thickened dye with the sodium carbonate so it will bond with the fabric. Mix it in well. Sodium carbonate is also called soda ash. Just want to mix that in real well. Let it get all dissolved. Okay. Now I'm going to spread some dye on the cookie sheet. Get some on my roller. Get it all soaked in. Get the roller completely covered and let it get soaked in. You don't want it to be you don't want it to be thick on the roller. You want it to be soaked into the roller. Now I'll roll the dye over carefully, pressing pretty firmly for my roller. It's pretty stiff. If you're gentle, you can go back over. Again, some more dye. You can already see that the twine is resisting the dye. Just being careful not to move my string from side to side. And you can see where that's making the pattern. Okay, and the dye is done. Now I'll cover the fabric with plastic and with a heating pad set on high. The heating pad will just make my dye set a little bit quicker. Usually you want 4 hours, but with a heating pad I only give it 3. So we'll wait and come back and do the next step. Now I'll seal in the dye with the corn dextrin. This is my corn dextrin. We're gonna use a roller just like before with the dye. Wanna get the roller nice and saturated. You want this to be as wet as it can be. But you don't really want it to be a thick layer on the roller. You want it, again, to soak in the roller, just like with the dye. Okay. Just like with the dye. You only want to go about halfway. This is a half yard piece of fabric. And your roller will run out of corn dextrin about half the width. This is going to seal in this first layer of dye. Once it's dry, it will resist the second layer that we'll put on. The reason we want to apply resist is If we put the second layer of dye right on top without the resist, the second layer of dye would change the color of the first layer of the dye. They would mix together. So we want to preserve that original color before we put on the second color. The corn dextrin will dry over the course of several hours, depending on the humidity of the day. So we'll just wait and come back. Now it's time to remove the twine. My fabric is almost dry. I've taken out all the T-pins. And now I'm just gonna peel this off. It's a little bit easier before it's completely dry. Take it all off. And there you go. It's still a little bit wet. Most of it's dry. I'm going to let it dry all the way, and then I'll come back to it and roll the next layer of dye on. Again, using the foam roller, I'll roll on the second color, being sure to cover completely. Only the areas left uncovered by the dextrin will be dyed in this color. I'll cover it again with the plastic and the heating blanket. I'll let it batch for 3 hours. When that's done, we'll be ready to start washing it out. See you then. I've washed out my fabric. Washing it in the washing machine removes the excess dye and the corn dextrin. Then I boiled it. I boiled it twice to remove the last of the dye so it won't bleed out anymore. Now I'm going to over dye the fabric in a light color to tone down the white areas. This technique is called low water immersion. I've wet my fabric in some unthickened soda ash solution. Now I'll add the dyes, yellow, red, and blue. I'm mixing up a cream color. It's pretty light. I just want to tone down that white. Okay. Smush the fabric in. And I'll let it batch for 1 hour minimum in a warm place. I've done the last washout and boiling. The cream over dye has toned down the white areas of the fabric. Here's my finished fabric all ready to be used. Please find me and Artistry on Main at Facebook, and remember to visit us often in Buchanan, West Virginia. Bye-bye.